In 1978, Deng Xiaoping made a historic trip to Japan, the first standing Chinese leader to visit Japan in more than 2,000 years of relations between the two nations. Witnessing Japan's famed Shinkansen firsthand sparked Deng's ambition for a more modern and prosperous China that had fallen behind after years of turmoil. And it wouldn't take long for Deng's dream to be achieved. Just over 3 decades later, China would not only catch up to Japan economically, but surpass them, today boasting the world's largest and fastest high-speed rail network. Just as Deng was eager to normalize relations and learn from the Japanese, it was 1400 years earlier when Japan sent missions to learn from its more powerful neighbor, adopting and adapting China's writing system, music, architecture, and system of governance. Although present-day relations between China and Japan seem frosty at best, let's look back at a time when they became friends and why this relationship was so significant to China's economic miracle.
The Chinese tried the communist model with their own modifications, and it's failed. And they have admitted that it's failed. Deng Xiaoping is a great man. He fought a great revolution. He saw the product of that revolution turn sour. He was fortunate to live long enough, and he had the courage to say, "No, we change course."
After the death of Mao in 1976, Deng eventually took power to a China that, although unified, was severely behind other nations. Deng, who himself lived in France as a young man, understood the need for China to adopt outside systems and ideas, and encouraged high-level officials to go abroad on study trips. In 1978 alone, hundreds of officials, ministers, and their staff visited a total of 50 countries and reinforced the need for China to adopt a new direction. However, out of those countries, Japan was of particular interest. Japan itself embarked on a similar journey almost a century earlier, known as the Iwakura Mission, a 2-year diplomatic voyage to study foreign systems and structures in the United States and Europe after centuries of isolation, allowing them to rapidly modernize and industrialize during the Meiji era. Additionally, Japan during the 70s had successfully rebuilt itself into a global economic and industrial powerhouse after the devastation of World War II by inviting in foreign technologies and capital. Although Deng spent years fighting Imperial Japanese forces during World War II, being the ultimate pragmatist, he put aside any reservations he had of Japan to normalize relations between the two nations, a pivotal step in China's remarkable transformation.
这个新干线以后有什么想法？
就干这个牌，
早いと思います。
有催人跑的意思。
追いかけられて走ってるような気がします。
所以我们现在更合适了。我们现在正合适。
On the 19th of October, 1978, Deng embarked on a 10-day tour of Japan, in his words, for 3 reasons. First, to ratify the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. 2, to express China's appreciation to the Japanese who worked to improve relations between the two nations. And third, to learn about modern technology and management from Japan, calling it the secret magic drug, a joke referring to the legend of Chinese explorer Xu Fu, who was sent to Japan more than 2,000 years earlier to find the potion of immortality for the first emperor of China. Highlighting his eagerness to learn from Japan, Deng delivered a memorable response to a Japanese guide who remarked that Kyoto's culture came from China, to which Deng quickly replied, "Now the positions as student and teacher are reversed." Deeply impressed by his Shinkansen ride and tours of modern factories, Deng acknowledged China's relative backwardness at a press conference, stating that we need to learn from Japan, expressing his gratitude for their hospitality and his hope for enduring China-Japan relations. Japanese leaders, eager to mend relations with China, met with Deng, including Emperor Hirohito and Prime Minister Fukuda, who offered personal apologies for what happened during World War II. Additionally, a number of business leaders were more than happy to share their experiences and innovations to create a more prosperous and stable China. One important figure was Konosuke Matsushita, the founder of Panasonic, also known as the god of management in Japan. Although Japanese CEOs fiercely guarded their business secrets, Matsushita was so moved by Deng's commitment to China's modernization that he became an early believer in the nation's potential. Defying others, his company was one of the first to establish factories in China, specifically for color TVs in 1987. He was so impressed with the skills of the Chinese workers that he declared that China would soon one day surpass Japan in terms of technological innovation. His venture was so successful that it generated profits in just the first year of operating in China, laying the groundwork and confidence for other companies to invest and build in China for future decades. In 2018, Matsushita would be one of 10 people to be posthumously awarded the China Reform Friendship Medal by Xi Jinping for his contributions to China's growth story. Another noteworthy figure was Akio Morita, CEO and co-founder of Sony, who also met with Deng and admired his determination and drive to modernize, admitting that Japan should work harder to normalize relations.
There have been some controversy about the rewriting of the history of World War II in Japan. And people in Korea have been upset, people in China have been upset. Is this something that we need to be concerned about?
The Japanese history, and they try to hide or they try to twist too much. Our youngsters should know real truth and true history. We should know why we made a mistake, why such a thing happened.
Additionally, Inayama Yoshihiro, chairman of Nippon Steel, helped modernize China's steel production through the construction of the Baoshan steel plant in Shanghai, paving the way for China to quickly become the top steel producer in the world in a matter of decades. And equally important was the influence of Kazuo Inamori, founder of Kyocera, KDDI, and former chairman of Japan Airlines. His business philosophies inspired a generation of Chinese entrepreneurs, with the founders of Alibaba, Huawei, and ByteDance all crediting Inamori's teachings for their successes. Further solidifying his commitment to China's future, his foundation today continues to offer scholarships to disadvantaged Chinese students.
I think Deng Xiaoping is going to go down as one of the greatest leaders that any nation ever had, because he had to give up his own ideology to do something else that worked better.
Deng's visit to Japan ignited a spark that transformed China in the following decades. Witnessing Japan's economic miracle firsthand, Chinese officials eagerly adopted Japanese practices in production, quality control, and worker training. Cultural exchanges were also promoted, with Chinese audiences getting a taste of the outside world, getting the chance to experience Japanese songs, movies, and television. Notably, the 1976 thriller You Must Cross the River of Wrath, later remade by John Woo, became a massive hit in China and still holds a record for the highest grossing Japanese film based on ticket sales. Additionally, Japan continued to grant China development aid totaling 3.6 trillion yen over 40 years, thanks to Masayoshi Ohira, the 43rd Prime Minister of Japan and another China Reform Friendship Medal recipient. And Japanese firms continued to invest and grow their factories in China, with both countries benefiting from continued economic integration. No country played a bigger role in assisting China build its industry and infrastructure than Japan. Though it seemed like the two were on track to become great friends, what went wrong?
Do you think Japan needs to apologize more to China?
I think that if Japan would be more deeply apologetic and would put in their textbooks more about the horrors that they have done, it would probably make them less vulnerable to criticisms by China.
Japan was a major contributor of foreign aid to China in the 1970s.
That's quite right. The Chinese need to say thank you more. Japanese need to apologize more.
The economic partnership between China and Japan, though undeniably successful, was built on a foundation of unresolved historical issues, the most prominent being the issue of Japanese prime ministers visiting the controversial Yasukuni Shrine, which honors thousands of convicted war criminals. These visits and attempts to downplay wartime atrocities through historical revisionism have raised questions about Japan's true nature. Additionally, territorial disputes around the strategically important Senkaku or Diaoyu Islands have added another layer of tension. Although Deng wanted future generations to find a peaceful solution, the issue continues to be a frequent sore point. Beyond historical issues, China's rapid economic growth has caused some level of anxiety in Japan. Stagnant for 3 decades, Japan now faces a more assertive and nationalistic China that has eclipsed it as Asia's dominant power. Anti-Japanese sentiment in China, fueled by protests and boycotts over the years, have been widely reported in Japanese media, leading to a decline in Japanese tourism to China and a dramatic shift in public opinion. After Deng's visit in 1978, a public opinion poll showed that a staggering 78% of Japanese held positive views towards China. This optimism plummeted to 52% after the Tiananmen Square incident, and now hovers around a dismal 10%. Though the relationship between China and Japan remains deep and complex, the two nations have always found ways to coexist and cooperate in their 2,000 years of relations. Japan's and China's futures are deeply entwined, and it's in the best interests of both to work together for a more prosperous and safer region.
Did he fear the Japanese because of their technology?
His attitude to the Japanese was hard to understand. He didn't like them, but he knew he had to work with them.
And in the end, his legacy is that
he opened China. His legacy is simple. He changed the history of China and thereby Asia and thereby the world.